Now, when you get an opportunity and you sit in the room, it's a heck of a lot better than not being in the room.
Yeah.
And then let's say Becky gets in there and, maybe against some of the other candidates and they don't do well, you could see this thing turn in a hurry. So, there was probably a time when I said, hey, we're 5 years away, but, like I said, I'd be happy to be very wrong about that. And, I believe in Becky's talents. And so if all of a sudden Becky were to end up landing that job, I would not be shocked.
Well, it's interesting you say that because when Tony Dungy was the defensive coordinator here, I was covering the Vikings in the mid 90s, and he and I talked a lot about, black head coaches not getting chances, and he kept interviewing, and I kept asking, are you frustrated? And he'd say, no, because this is how you wear down that wall. He said, and his theory was always, and I think he might have been too generous. His theory was that NFL owners weren't racist. They were ingrained to think that good head coaches looked like Bill Parcells and Bill Walsh. And it was just, so it was maybe it was a form of racism. He didn't think it was overt. He thought it was a passive form of racism.
More of a bias.
And people just doing what they're comfortable doing. And he said, but the more I can get in those rooms and talk to them, the better it's going to be. And then Mike Tomlin was a defensive coordinator here, and he went to interview, and really he hadn't done much in the league to that point. And he was a defensive coordinator on a bad Vikings team. He gets an interview with the Pittsburgh Steelers that felt like a formality. They had a couple of former Steelers who were considered the front runners easily for that job. Tomlin got in that room. He wowed them. They hired him. Bang, and he's been there ever since.
And I've seen it before. So, so like you said, it's a great first step. Maybe we need something like the Rooney Rule, for women, for opportunities. I just think it's healthy. It's healthy for everyone. Diversity of thought, I think is what allows businesses to be successful. And that's exactly what an NBA franchise is.
And by the way, just a personal note on Becky Hammon. I remember covering one of your games, and this is a while ago, obviously, and Becky and Waylon went at it, and it was fierce, and it was physical, and neither was dirty, but they weren't elbows, but they were shoulders. They were. I
mean, the great competitors, right? Those two great competitors, and Becky was just prolific. This is a player who was undrafted in the WNBA. Richie Adubato, who was coaching in New York, he gave Becky an opportunity only after her college coach Tom Collin, whose wife is now coaching in Atlanta, begged Richie, just put her in camp. Just do me a favor. Just put her in camp. And she goes out, and then she ends up, being one of the top 20 of all time players. And so that gives you maybe a look into who Becky is and how she overcomes things. And, I think from a coaching perspective, again, I would not be surprised at all if she were to get the job and would be successful.
So LeBron James is having an amazing season. And you look at what he's done historically, what he's done at the playoffs, what he's doing at his advanced age, the minutes he's playing, the efficiency, the overall game. First, I would like to ask your thoughts in general on what you think of LeBron, but also, should we draw any comparisons between the male and the female game? Should we be talking about Maya Moore in any similar ways? Or is that awkward? Should we not try to cross that line?
Well, I think the challenge with it is when I'm talking with you, I understand exactly what you mean. And then I think when people take it on the surface and say that we're comparing Maya Moore to LeBron James, they don't get what we're talking about. What you're saying in comparison is the consistent competitive success that these two individuals have had for their respective sports. No one is suggesting that Maya Moore is physically LeBron James, or vice versa, because there are things that Maya Moore can do that LeBron can't. He is an absolute freak of nature physically. It's unbelievable. The size and the strength and the mobility. I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime. And then to combine that with an intelligence for the game, and then also, I've never been around him in a locker room, but what I hear is he does an unbelievable job of rallying his troops and getting his guys behind him and pushed in the right direction. So, it's unbelievable to achieve this level of success for this long. If he ends up in the finals again,
I know.
There's not going to be. You can't say there was ever anybody better in pulling his team to those heights. There's nobody better, and love him or hate him, which I think he's a hard individual to hate. He does everything right, in this climate of, men's sports that, you don't know which direction things could go, no matter what he's asked. He's terrific, in response. He's thoughtful. He's obviously supportive of women in sport, a lot of things. And he should be commended for all those things in addition to what an amazing basketball player he is.
And that's where, to me, you can draw a comparison between the two. You look at Maya as a winner throughout her entire life, and she's always been an ambassador of the game, but I think she's gotten better at that too over the years. I think she always did it because she felt obligated to do it. I think she enjoys doing it now. And tell me if I'm wrong. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head just from what I've seen. But it's amazing what Maya Moore has accomplished. I mean, if you read her resume, it takes an hour.
It does. It's really unbelievable. And people ask me, what is it about Maya Moore? And again, it's a lot of the same traits that someone like LeBron would have, which is they're fiercely competitive. They have this fire, this greed for more and more and more. They win a trophy and they can look around and go, where's the next one that I can have? And it's just never enough for them. And Maya is incredibly selfless. She cares so much about what her team needs from her. And it's not always, from a basketball sense. A lot of times it's intangible. What do they need her to do, to offer in the way of her energy and the moments that they might need it. And, she's been pretty special. Obviously to I don't even know the number of championships anymore, but when we get her back here, it'll be like she hasn't won a championship. And it's like, how can we do this? And there'll be this challenge. And so she has the ability to compartmentalize. Okay, this was won, and this year she just won a EuroLeague championship, and then they win a Russian championship. She's not going to be thinking about those. It's going to be on to this group, and how can she fully immerse herself into this to be the best that she can on the court, and then also whatever her teammates might need from her. So interesting thing with LeBron. I early in his career, I didn't like the guy very much because it was because of his arrival in Cleveland that we lost the Cleveland Rockers. So in 2003,
oh, wow.
I was with Cleveland, great team. Gordon Gunn was the owner of the team. Nice guy, supportive of the WNBA franchise. And then all of a sudden LeBron James is going to come onto the scene. So he decided to sell. And for whatever reason, we got lost in the shuffle and it became all about LeBron.
That's awesome. I might use that anecdote because I might write about LeBron this week. That's pretty good stuff. I remember
he was the demise of the Cleveland Rockers, and he doesn't even know it.
And the thing is, LeBron would probably feel guilty about it.
I'm sure he would. Maybe he'll feel guilty enough to put a WNBA franchise back there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great fan base there. Tremendous.
Yeah, absolutely. How's your bench? We know your starters. We're very familiar with the starters. Yeah. How's your bench?
Well, I've been we've been hard at work, with this group. We have some veterans, Danielle Robinson, Tanisha Wright, Lynetta Kaiser, that will be sort of at the forefront of the group. But we also have two young players, Alexis Jones and Temi Fagbenley, that were here last year. And then we have the Italian that was only here for about a month last year, Ceci Zandalicini. And so all those players will be back. Thus far through training camp, our focus has been on Danielle, Tanisha, AJ, and Kaiser, because Temi just got here. And they have been tremendous in terms of just jumping in 2 feet and being excited to be here, number one. And number two, just, okay, how is it that you guys do things? Let us know. How do you want to guard this? And what do you need from me? We're coaching the heck out of Danielle Robinson, to try to get her career trajectory where I think it should be, sort of back on track. She wants that badly. But there's some work to do there, but there's a lot there. And we saw that in the preseason game, what she gives us. Alexis Jones looks really good, looks ready. And Tanisha Wright, who was off for a year, is highly competitive as she ever was. And, will compete her tail off in a possession. She makes everything difficult for you. Just that passion, that fire that you got to have around your team. And then I think our players have really enjoyed Lynetta Kaiser. This is a player who got to free agency. It was her 6th year, and so she was unrestricted and was not cored by Connecticut. And she sort of said, Connecticut wasn't for her, and so she looked around a little bit, and we said, all right, we want to do this. why has this not gone better for her in terms of her career? She was really good in Indiana, and then it sort of went a different way as well. And so can we pull her back and get her to where we think she should be? And goodness, has she's got size, she's got hands, she's got a shot, she's got a personality, that her teammates have really enjoyed. So obviously I'm really excited about it, and it is going to be the key to our success. This group that we just talked about is absolutely the key to our success. Lindsay, Simone, Maya, Rebecca, and Sil will do their thing. We will manage them the best that we can. It's our second team. Their evolution as quickly as we possibly can is going to help us be really successful.
One more question for Cheryl on this week's show. Again, come out and see us May 16th at the Freehouse, North Loop, right in Washington. We'd love to make this a really fun event. Check if you would like to advertise with this show or any of the shows on the network. You can email talknorthpodcast@gmail.com. Again, go to the new website, talknorth.com, and check everything out. We do appreciate your listenership. How was the Iowa experience?
Down in Des Moines, it was great. It was a tremendous facility. And as you know, our Iowa Wolves are down there. So we had sort of an infrastructure, which was nice. Sometimes in these preseason games, you're going to places that just don't have any idea how to run a professional game. And obviously they did. So that was smooth sailing. Do you want to talk about the game? Is that what you were?
I meant the entire experience from the game to the fan base, how you were received, everything.
Yeah. No, I think it was very well received. We had a nice crowd there. There's a lot of teams around the league that would love to have a preseason, crowd that we had. They were into it. Unfortunately the game itself, we lost sort of a philosophical battle with Washington. Washington kind of came at us wanting to really win that game. I suspect, the last time we saw them, it was in the playoffs and we were ending their season. So I think they still had some things on their mind. They were physical. They were, they were in regular season form. And I would say that we had a mindset of trying to evaluate and play a lot of people. And I think at the end of the day, that probably hurt us. We didn't have very good flow and energy wasn't high enough. At the end of the day, I was disappointed in just the number of fouls we committed. We pride ourselves on a couple things. Defending without fouling, we were best in the league at that last year. That remains high priority for us. And we gave up 47 free throws in a 40-minute game, which is really hard to do if you think about it. And so that was disappointing that we didn't clean that up sooner. I think in terms of the offense with the turnovers a little bit, we shot 46%. I think the turnovers come from just maybe young players trying to do too much or not knowing when and, the where, the why sort of thing. So I can live with that in the preseason game. But at the end of the day, it was a success. It was a step forward for us. Sometimes just illuminating where you are, makes it a success. And it allowed us to, sort of kind of springboard into the second week to get where we are right now, which is we just finished our second day of the second week and we're getting ready to, have a go around with Chicago here this weekend, and we'll be back in the Target Center for the first time. So I think our players are excited about that.
And the season opener is fast approaching. I'm looking forward to that. This is going to, your team's always such a pleasure to cover, and your players they're fierce competitors, but they're polite, they're thoughtful. Maya's become a great interview. Simone, who, I don't think she liked me at first. I know, boy, there's a trend, people not liking me.
I didn't want to say that.
Yeah, I know. But Simone's become just, a joy to talk to over the course of time. You've always been great. Waylon's always been, just incredibly accessible. It's just fun to cover your team, and I'm looking forward to the season.
I appreciate you saying all that.
Well, it's true.
Simone doesn't like me either still after all these years, so don't go by that.
Well, I make her talk and you make her play defense. So that's the problem. So we're going to ask Cheryl Reeve for a final thought here. And again, we will see you May 16th at the Freehouse.
Well, I would just say that, as we get ready to kick off the another WNBA season, that, our fan base has been tremendous, and, sort of a challenge maybe to our fans. What we tell our players is, what we did last season isn't going to be good enough for this season. And so we have to always evolve, find a way to improve. And I want to issue that same challenge to the ones that have supported us through the years to say, can you do a little bit more this year, to bring somebody new, to introduce the product to someone, to keep growing this sport? We can't keep taking, baby steps. Now's the time. Can we do a little bit more to take a bigger jump? We continue to grow our business through all this success. maybe challenging your corporation to jump on and sponsor and things like that. So sort of want to issue that challenge of doing a little bit more, because if our team does the same thing, we're not going to be successful. And the same thing would be true for our fans.
Thanks, Cheryl. We'll see you next week at the Freehouse. Thanks for listening to the Cheryl Reeve Show. Again, our first live show of the Cheryl Reeve Show will be 5 p.m.